What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. In this video, I have a couple of things I want to go over. We have some inflationary data that just dropped today to look at, showing things going definitely in a positive direction. I have a new stock that I want to talk about that someone mentioned. It's a micro cap, very high risk, but also very high reward here. And I also want to show you a crypto that's primed for a potential breakout while Bitcoin's pulling back nonetheless. And yet again, we have CleanSpark breaking yearly highs. It just doesn't want to cool down. We're also going to talk about that. Now, if you guys get something useful out of this video, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you want some free stocks, free money, check out the links down below. I do use all of these sites, all of these brokerages, and let's get started right up. And first off, our inflationary data, we just had PCE drop, and here's the year-over-year chart. We are cooling. We're now at the lowest level here we've seen since 2021. You'll see back towards late summer, we kind of leveled out here. It looked like we were gonna turn back around and start rising. However, over the last couple of months, the trend is still continuing down. And on a 6-month basis, core PCE has only increased 1.9%, which indicates that if these current trends continue, the Fed has essentially reached their goal. And we have a quote from a deputy chief economist, and he says, adding in the further sharp slowdown in rent inflation still in the pipeline, it's hard to see any credible reason why the annual inflation rate won't also return to the 2% target over the coming months. And the year-over-year or 12-month numbers are very significant because it does show the Fed's making progress towards their 2% target. And a chief economist at PNC Financial Services says that the timing of these rate cuts will depend on core PCE numbers over the next few months, so they're going to be very important to watch. And while the FOMC is not yet ready to declare victory on inflation, the outlook is much better than it was just a few months ago. And markets still expect the first rate cuts to come around March. And this is a great sign that shows the likelihood of rate cuts even more is a sure thing. And of course, it'll be important to watch upcoming data, PPI, CPI, and PCE, of course. As we get into the new year, we want to see these continue coming down, obviously. Now, I want to show you guys Bitcoin real quick. Not a whole lot is going on today, and I do expect over this weekend, throughout the holidays, it's going to be kind of quiet. This is what we see every holiday season, typically. People are out traveling. People don't want to worry about investing. It's probably going to be a bit of a quiet weekend, but you never know. We might be surprised. We might see some altcoins break out. And I'll continue that thought in a second. Now, one thing people are calling out for is a drawdown before the halving, because we have seen that previously. And back in March of 2020, this is what people are talking about. We had a 50% drawdown on Bitcoin, but you have to look at what happened to the global economy, to the US economy, and you'll notice that everything had a V-shaped recovery. Everything pulled back. This, in my opinion, was due solely to Rona, and it did quickly retrace after that. Now, I do think there's still likelihood of a little bit of a drawdown before the halving, but if you're not a buyer on any of these potential future dips, I don't know what to tell you. And of course, pulling back 10, even 20% isn't a sure thing, but we do have to be ready for that. There's always that possibility. And a 10% drawdown would bring us right to about $40,000, which is definitely more than plausible to see. And a 20% drawdown would put us right about $35,000, which we were in only like a few months ago. And while I think a 20% drawdown is very unlikely, I think a 10% drawdown is possible, and we do need to, look out for that, just prepare for it, even though it may not happen. You definitely want to take proactive measures and not reactive measures. Be ready with some cash on the side just in case we do see a drawdown. And just don't get tricked out of the market. People have been seeing these run-ups saying, I'm taking profits, I'll get in at a lower level. And sometimes things just keep moving and you don't get to get in at a lower level. You have to buy in higher than you bought in originally or miss out on it completely. And in my opinion, selling now, getting in and out, if you're good at what you're doing, if you know what you're doing, go right the heck ahead. But there's a lot of people that, they think they're going to get out, get back in, get out, get back in. And in reality, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is just continue DCAing, because we know over the long term where things are going. 2024 and 2025 prices for Bitcoin, prices for a lot of these miners are going to be dramatically higher. So what some people might call the top on the short term here could be way, way, way below in price the bottom in the future. So just keep that in mind. Don't sell too early, in my opinion, but also don't get too greedy. There's definitely a fine balance to it. But I do want to mention one thing here is while Bitcoin's pulling back, we do have Ethereum popping, and it does look like it's primed for a potential breakout. And after its recent pullback from being overbought, now we definitely have some room to break out to new highs before even becoming overbought. Keep an eye on Ethereum at 24,000. If we break out past 24,000, we can definitely see a run for Ethereum. And I mentioned Ethereum in a previous video, going over how overall they are burning tokens. The token burn more than covers any new tokens being issued, and overall Ethereum's net supply is dropping down. And while I admit there's cryptos like Solana, like Avalanche that are taking some of the thunder, I still do think Ethereum is a relatively safer one. I've showed you guys this crazy long trend that we have not broken, and I'll show you it again real quick. And I think there's a very good likelihood that we just continue this uptrend and we never ever break this yellow ascending line here. But let me know what you guys think about that. Is Ethereum always going to just slowly and steadily rise? Sure, we'll see drawdowns, but never a drawdown enough to break this descending line, implying we're always going up and to the right over the long term. Yes, there will be pullbacks along the way, but I do believe this ascending support line will continue to be maintained, but we'll have to simply see how that plays out over the long term. I do think people getting their toes wet in crypto, just looking for a couple coins to get into. I think Bitcoin, you know, definitely deserves a large percentage of the portfolio. It keeps things more secure, keeps things more stable, at least in terms of crypto. And you know, you don't have to go far down the list, especially at this point in the season. And if you're new at crypto, you know, you don't want to go all in on like Pepe, you don't want to go all in on Bonk. And while I do think these meme coins will still see huge gains, and it's still very early on a lot of these, if you're new, you don't want to get scared away from these, you know, sharp retracements, sharp drawdowns, because there are going to be pumps and there are going to be dramatic pullbacks as well. And I think getting into some of the top cryptos, the top 10 specifically, is going to help you be able to sleep at night. And the more degen you get, the more risky things can get, the more anxiety you can get. That said, I think there's a lot of very small cap cryptos that are going to see crazy moves. But you know, some of you that are new to crypto, wanting to get into some different cryptos, you don't have to rack your brain, look down the list down to the top 500 or something. Get into some cryptos that have some staying power, get into some cryptos that have been around for a long time and have been tried and tested. And I think Ethereum is one of them. I like their tokenomics. Overall, they will continue their burn and we will see a decrease in supply as crypto demand rises throughout 2024 and 2025. But just eye that breakout for Ethereum. I do think it's coming and we will see a breakout soon. Now, I do want to talk about a new stock someone mentioned, and I do think there's some potential here. It's a very small cap. We're talking under a $10 million market cap, smaller than Sphere 3D. So there is definitely risk to this one. The chart is starting to look a little better. It's been in a pretty sharp drawdown over the last couple months, and now it finally broke over its 50 MA, and next it's working on its 200 MA. And the good thing here is we're starting to see them curl upwards. The negative is the RSI is becoming a bit overbought. It does have some room to continue up though, and we do have a gap right around the 40 to 50 cent range. Maybe next week we retrace there, and it could be a great entry point on that gap fill. And I wanted to look at their mining update. They give quarterly mining updates, so every 3 months, and they're mining a little over 1 Bitcoin per day, which, yes, that's a very small amount compared to the larger miners, but you have to consider that this market cap is minuscule compared to the other miners. We have other miners that are in the billions now, and this miner is still right around $10 million. And just like Sphere 3D, I do believe this one can see some crazy updates, 50% updates, 30% updates, as the money rolls in and as money goes into more higher risk plays, smaller caps. With crypto, we have the altcoins. With crypto miners, we have the micro caps, the Sphere 3Ds of the world, and the LM fundings of the world. And if I didn't tell you the ticker, it's lmfa, and it's experiencing a 20% update today. So put this on your watch list, keep an eye on it next week. I do think as hype rolls in, this one will see some crazy gains as well. But exercise caution, because just like Sphere 3D, this is another high risk one. And I gotta mention Clsk, we're breaking out to new yearly highs again, seemingly just flying away from this gap. I think the likelihood of filling it is becoming more and more unlikely, although I do think there's still a possibility. I'd probably say it's a 1 in 4 chance, so about a 25% chance we fill this gap. And you know, a lot can happen over the next week. Throughout January, maybe we get a delay on the spot Bitcoin ETFs and that causes Bitcoin to come down to the 30s, at which case Clsk could definitely work on filling this gap. But you know, don't just sit on your hands until then. Don't just think, okay, I'll just get in on that gap fill, because it might not fill. I do think these Bitcoin miners are solid DCAs, and just like with a lot of the cryptos, you know, timing things, trying to get in, get out. If you're good at that and you know what you're doing, that's great. But a lot of people are going to get burnt. A lot of people are going to sell too early. Things are going to go higher. They're going to get FOMO and they're going to buy in higher. And then things pull back and they just are on the opposite side of the trades. And like I said, if you know what you're doing, if you have, you know, stop losses in place, if you know how to read the market, how to read the room, and you have solid indicators that you make use of, that's great. But a lot of people are going to see things and they're going to be like, oh, it's up again today, I'm going to sell. We'll have a red day in the future, and then we have like 3-4 more green days until our next red day, which is much higher than you sold at. And then you're either going to have to get in higher, or you're going to have to wait for a further pullback. Maybe it gets there, maybe it doesn't, maybe you miss out, maybe you don't. But in the end, I think DCA is the best way to go. Things will be much higher throughout 2024 and 2025. And besides selling covered calls that are way out of the money I might add. Selling is a mistake. And even selling covered calls, you know, they're not without their risk. I have $20 strike January 2024 calls. And while I do doubt CleanSpark's going to get to 20, there's always the possibility it does, and I'm forced to either sell my shares or buy to close that call or roll it out. Now, I personally think $20 is unlikely to hit, but there is always that possibility. You know, maybe the spot Bitcoin ETFs get approved in January and it causes miners to go on a 50% run, and then another couple of green days after that. But you know, just remember, don't operate with emotions, operate with logic. When things go too heavy, when we're getting to extreme greed, just keep in mind, you know, there are going to be red days. There are going to be chances to buy. And overall, I do believe these crypto miners, a lot of the cryptos, Bitcoin of course, are going to go much higher in the following years. But let me know what you guys think about all this. It's definitely been a very insane, very exciting week for us. And this is a great way to wrap up the year. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. If I don't see you before then, let me know what you guys are doing for Christmas. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and also have a great weekend.